about the possibility that groups like the Problem Solver Caucus and other moderate groups can help make Congress work to address national challenges now, especially since some of the more moderate Democrats, people like Max Rose, who lost, and others who had very close elections, surprisingly close elections, had to went through that in this election cycle. So what can we look from that caucus and others like it?
Well, I'll say that the Problem Solvers Caucus, a bunch of moderates, it's a good mission. They certainly try to move things in a more bipartisan direction. I think they will have less influence in the upcoming Congress. The Senate, I think, is the legislative body that's more ripe for strategic bipartisanship. The House could be a total anarchy, because if Pelosi has a narrow majority, it's going to be the progressives that are probably going to be more likely to blow things up, use that leverage to prevent maybe more bipartisan, more moderate legislation from getting through. The one thing about moderates, the one thing about problem solvers is they don't usually like to blow things up. They don't usually like to create chaos, even if it's in the service of their best interests. So I think if there is a lot of problems, challenges in the upcoming Congress, that Pelosi, I think, has one of the narrowest majorities for a Democratic leader in many decades. It's likely going to be 7 or 8 votes. She can't afford to lose more than that. So, it's nice. It's all nice and good what the Problem Solvers Caucus is doing, though I don't know if they're going to have quite as much political leverage, and they didn't have a whole lot in this past Congress either.
Lisa.
Yeah, I guess I would just say, sort of on a broader level, like, we live in a fiercely polarized time, and we just went through 4 years of very, very polarized politics. So the question is whether, and that's not Joe Biden. As I said, he comes from this earlier school, reaching across the aisle, crafting bipartisan legislation. Like, that's not something we've seen in Washington for a long time. Like, really, since before the Obama administration, right? I suppose there were a few fiscal deals during the Obama administration, but generally, like, we are in this polarized moment. And the question is whether, this bipartisan, maybe more moderate approach that Joe Biden, the school that he comes from, that traditional Washington school, can survive and thrive and get things done in the current political environment. And, that's, I think, will be the real test of his first year in office. And I think that's what we'll be watching, is whether there is still room for people like the Problem Solver Caucus, or, if we're just living in this country that's growing more and more divided.
Yeah, I will. If I can revise and extend my remarks really quickly.
Please do.
I will say that, like, the one thing, and Lisa points to Biden and the broader politics matter, but presidents have a bully pulpit. They have a lot of power. So if Biden wanted to bless, a lot of this comes down to where Biden sees things. And, the president, Obama had a whole lot of power. He could, you would look at a lot of major legislative items that may not have been easy to pass, but when he got his party behind him and he used the bully pulpit, he at least was able to get his party together and push some things forward. So I think a lot of it comes down to how effective Biden will be and how strategic he ends up being. Because if he wants to bless if he wants to kind of really bless the Problem Solvers Caucus and adopt their agenda items, that could make a big difference.